We are live. And I see the attendees joining in just a couple of seconds. I'm going to start the introductions. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Be Waste Wise. I am Shweta Vandapani. I'm one of the community builders on Be Waste Wise. We host 2 webinars every month on a wide range of topics related to waste management and circular economy and sustainability. Today, we have Zoe Lenkovich, a director of Global Waste Lab, who's moderating this webinar. She's the topic for today's webinar is small-scale plastics recycling in Africa. She has invited 2 speakers from Africa. We have Dipesh Pabari, Managing Director of Flipflopi Project Foundation, and Aliou Sowe, CEO of Plastics Recycling Gambia Limited. As usual, just a few admin information for you all. Please use the Q&A section for your questions. Zoe will take them as and when they're relevant and pose it to the panelists. Use the chat to introduce yourselves. General conversations, anything is welcome. And for other webinars that Zoe has done on Be Waste Wise, please go to our website. You will find them there. Aliou's internet is a little poor at the moment. So in case there's trouble, we will resolve it. So as the conversation continues. So over to you, Zoe.
Thank you very much, Shweta, and hello everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining us. We had more than 200 people sign up, so it's obviously a very, a very hot topic for a lot of you. So my name, as Shweta said, is Zoe Lenkovich. Some of you may know me already from previous Be Waste Wise webinars. If you go to the website wastewise.be, you will find a lot of webinars from, I think I've been running them now for 10 years, which is a scary thought. So lots of topics there that you might find interesting and relevant as well. Today we are talking about small-scale plastics recycling in Africa, and I'm really, really pleased to have Dipesh Pabari and Aliou Sowe here to join me. Aliou is having some difficulty with his internet connection, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. It's a pain that we all go through sometimes. So hopefully he's going to be able to jump on the call sooner rather than later. And Dipesh is really honouring us with his presence, because I know that in just under an hour, he has to leave his home in Kenya and make his way to the airport to get to Bangkok. So thank you very much, Dipesh, for making the time when you've got a lot on. I do really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure. So everybody, thank you very much for joining. I see the numbers are going up as people click in. So I will just give a brief bit of admin for the platform. Please do introduce yourselves in the webinar chat. So if you move your mouse cursor, you'll see at the bottom, there's the participants and then the chat function. If you click on that, it'll open a side panel where you can introduce yourself. And then also along the bottom, there is a Q&A button that's a little question mark. So if you have specific questions for the speakers, including myself or for Shweta even, please put your questions there. Because if you put them in the chat, sometimes they get lost because there's a lot of busy discussion going on there. So yeah, questions in the Q&A, please. We will do our best to answer as many as we can live, or we might even put some answers just in the chat box there. So great. Hi, Chris. Good to see you. Thanks for introducing yourself in the chat there. Hello, Will. Welcome. Hi, Joe. Nice to see you. Great. So here we are. Excellent. I am glad that you're all rolling in. We've got nearly 70 people. Hi, Erwin. Nearly 70 people joined us already live. Hi, Toganon. Great. So I shall give a brief introduction to the topic, and then I'm going to pass to Dipesh to talk about his experience at the Flipflopi project in Kenya. So I've been working in waste management for more than 23 years now. The last decade, I've been working exclusively in the Global South. Plastic pollution is something that we're all acutely aware of, familiar with. You know, many of us, many of you here today, I'm sure, spend your days working on it and nights thinking about it, like many of us do. It's not an easy nut to crack. There's so many challenges involved in plastic recycling, trying to make it financially viable when the market value of plastic is so low, right? Why is that? Well, plastic is a really useful material, It's got lots of great qualities that preserve lots of different kinds of products and so on. And it's very low cost to produce. But because it's low cost to produce, that means that when it comes to recycling it, you can't sell it for much money, right? Because it's not going to be as good quality as the virgin plastic that you could buy, but it's actually cost you quite a lot more money to collect it, process it into a new recycled product. So how do we get these finances to stack up? What enabling environments do we really need? So I'm hoping that today there are some people from donor organizations or governments or municipalities, because this isn't something that plastic recyclers can do alone. Yeah, we really need that enabling environment, everybody playing their part in order for it to really work. And even then, it's still not easy. So on that note, I'm going to just have a quick look. Great, we've got 75 people joined us live. Thank you everybody for putting your introductions in the chat there. And without further ado then, I'm going to introduce you to the superb Dipesh Pabari, who is Managing Director of the Flipflopi project in Kenya. Dipesh, please could you just introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your project? Thank you.
I'm on the spot because Ali has disappeared in Gambia. Thank you all for joining. It's a pleasure to be on this call, and thank you for having me. I was born and raised in Kenya. I'm one of the co-founders of the Flipflopi. We're more of a collective of people who've come at it to try to solve a problem. We're based in Lamu on the north coast of Kenya on a set of islands, the Lamu archipelago, not far from the Somali border. It's a well-known historical area which has long ties and trade ties with the Middle East. It is where dhow built. Dhows are traditional boats. Lamu is well known for its traditional boats and also its traditional furniture. Lamu is about 63 islands, but sort of three main bigger islands. Until recently, there were no cars. Now we have a couple of tractors on the island. Transportation is mostly by donkey traditionally, but increasingly they've just introduced what we call bodas, motorbike taxis on the island. The roads are small. There are no sort of main roads, so to speak. Your average sort of size road is you can touch wall to wall on if you're stretching out your hands. So that's sort of the scenario where we're based. We're based there because we started off the Flipflopi by constructing the world's first recycled plastic sailing dhow. It's 9 meters in length. It weighs about 7 tons. It's made entirely from recycled plastic, except the mast. And the reason we're called the Flipflopi is because we used about 30,000 flip-flops to cover the skin, the hull of the dhow. We were born from trying to tackle the issue of single-use plastic. And the boat for us was very much saying, if you can make an incredible vessel that is capable of sailing hundreds of kilometers across the sea, it shows you how valuable this material is. We also want to ensure that a traditional heritage is very important for us, and I think heritage is very important for everybody, but we have that sort of at the center of our DNA. So it wasn't just going to be any, it had to be a traditional dhow. Those were our beginnings. They were fun times. We did a lot of expeditions, and we've dug ourselves very deep into the waste issue, specifically the plastic issue. Over the last 4 years, we've established a Lamu County's only recycling facility, a material recovery facility specifically on plastics, and just to qualify that, specifically on the recyclable plastics. So the rest of the crap lying around is still staring at us in the face and thinking, what do we do with it? We're now collecting an average of 12 to 14 tons a month, mostly HDPE, PP, and PET. And that's where we make lumber from the plastic. And from the lumber, we then have set up a upcycling facility where we're focusing on more boats and also traditional furniture. Lamu makes spectacular furniture from wood. We're essentially doing the same thing, but with plastic lumber. Additionally, we're not for profit. Our focus and our realization is trying to determine to what extent we can create viable circular solutions for recyclable plastics in hard to reach geographies that are in peri-urban areas and shoreline communities where there is little to no waste management. I think we definitely got ahead of ourselves when we went into it, and realizing that we had to start from scratch in the sense that we needed to establish the value chain from the recovery. So whilst the focus initially was on the boats and the furniture, we recognize that we're going to have to take on the whole chain. So a lot of our time over the last 4 years has been really sort of working with communities. It's a community-based model. It's an incentive-based model. We pay per the kilo, and we try to do things as efficiently as possible, which is never easy when you're driving across sand dunes. So here we are. Thank you. And it's good to see Ali here as well from Gambia.
Thanks so much, Dipesh. That's a really helpful introduction. Everyone, I had the wonderful opportunity to visit Dipesh and the Flipflopi project in Lamu, Kenya, in October last year, I think it was. And yeah, you are really working in challenging conditions. So their current site has no road access. The only way in and out is by water. So they can either go on a boat, obviously one of the boats that the Flipflopi has built from recycled plastic, or they wait until low tide and go out with a tractor and trailer. So it's really quite the adventure. And if you do ever get the chance to visit, I do encourage you to. It's a real experience. So thanks, Dipesh. That's great to hear your kind of the background of the Flipflopi project and the way that you work. I'm gonna hand over to Aliu now. Hi, Aliu. Thanks for making it back. I do appreciate that you've not got good signal at the moment, so fingers crossed everything holds. Would you like to unmute yourself, please, and give an introduction to yourself and your business in the Gambia? Thank you. See if this works now. Oh, it seems we're struggling with low bandwidth right across the board today.
You want to turn your video off, like Dipesh did, it might actually help with the audio.
Yeah, try that, Aliu. Just try turning your video off. It's the bottom left of your screen, the little icon just above video.
In fact, let me turn mine off too, just to save that.
Okay. Do you want to try unmuting yourself there, Aliu? Bottom left where it says audio. Okay, I will I'll go ahead and I'll explain a little bit about Aliu's work, since he's struggling with the connection. I'm sorry, Aliu. I do appreciate that you're a doer. That's the thing about working with in this sector, right? So many people are doers. They're hands-on people. They're traveling from site to site. They're with the community. They're in the factory. So you know, we don't always have like the easiest office setup situation. So I do appreciate the struggles that people go through sometimes. So look, Aliu is in the Gambia, which is a tiny country in West Africa. And I met Aliu about, oh goodness me, about 6 years ago, I think now, when he first set up Plastics Recycling in the Gambia, which was the first plastics recycling organization in the country, or business. It's a private business. So Aliu works with the local community to get plastics collected. He's got an agreement with the municipal council in the capital city there, Canifing Municipal Council. to have access to the dump site. Aliu, I can see you've unmuted yourself. Would you like to pick up where I left off? Oh, muted again. I don't know if we're going to have much luck. I'll just keep, there you are, unmuted. Do you want to try speaking, Aliu? Okay. The mute is coming on and off. So I've not seen that before, unless you're doing it yourself. No. Not having much luck, are we? Okay. So Aliu's got he's got some machinery, he's got an extruder and a grinder and a baler, and he's able to process some plastics that are collected in the Gambia. But as ever with many of these small enterprises that are trying to scale up, he's met many challenges in terms of, for example, being able to attract the finance to invest in bigger machinery. Now, I know this is a challenge that many small-scale plastic recyclers have, not just in Africa, but elsewhere, because the finance sector and banks, they're not necessarily that familiar with waste management and how it works and recycling systems. And so sometimes I think funders and financiers can see it as quite a high risk. Yeah. So for Aliu to be able to attract investment, he needs to put down quite a lot of collateral, which isn't going to be possible. So how does a small scale recycler like this actually grow? Yeah, this is, I mean, he's providing a public service. He's the only plastics recycler in the whole country, and yet he's struggling to get the support that he needs to grow his business. Okay, so some organizations have given support to, for example, community groups to collect the plastic. But if the one business that's actually able to process that plastic doesn't have the capacity because they can't afford bigger machines, yeah, so we're collecting the plastic, but we've got nowhere to take it. We've got no one to process it. And so that's a real ongoing challenge for many small scale plastic recyclers. I'm going to ask Sweta, actually, sorry, I can see you're busy typing, but I'm just keen to bring in everybody who's here. We've got nearly 100 people here live. So perhaps we could go to our first poll question. I thought it'd be nice to like engage you all and hear from you as well. So the first question is about the challenges that you have experienced yourselves in trying to engage people or deliver plastic recycling activities. So here we go. What is the biggest challenge you face in recycling plastic in your community? So please do, give us your answer. I'm not allowed to vote, so it's over to you. I maybe should have included an other. If you think there's an other, then please put it into the webinar chat there on the side panel. So I don't know how long we keep this up for, Sweta.
About a minute in total, we could keep it up. So we have another 30 seconds to go.
Okay, cool. Thanks. All right. So I'll just talk through the options. So we've got lack of infrastructure for collection and sorting. Now, again, this is one of those things. You need land, you need staff, you need human resources, all of these things. Is it high transport costs? So in Lamu, in Kenya, where Depeche is, as I said, they can only access the site by boat or when it's low tide by tractor and trailer. That's obviously really expensive. And the same in the Gambia. I know Aliu cannot get finance to buy a truck. So every time he wants to transport his product to market, he's then got to hire a vehicle to transport that, which obviously adds to costs and uncertainties. Is it that there's limited market demand for recycled plastic? Now, again, this is something that I put when we were advertising this webinar, because unless you're close to a city where there's industry that is actually able to take that recycled plastic and turn it into new products and sell those products, you've got no one to sell it to, right? So if you've got high transport costs and no one to sell it to, you haven't got a recycling business. So, and we'll look at the final, oh, sounds like someone's coming back, good. And finally, is it the policy and regulatory barriers? Okay, so many countries, they might have a waste management policy, but does it cover recycling? Does it support councils in collecting materials separately so that they can be easily recycled and in a cost-effective way? So I'm really interested to hear what you think. Sweta, do we have the results, please? Oh, brilliant, thank you. Excellent. Okay. So what have we got? 57% of you said lack of infrastructure for collection and sorting. Yeah. So this is clearly a major challenge particularly across the global south. Transport costs not considered to be such a priority. Oh, great. Hi, Aliu. Thanks for coming back. See you on your phone now. So great. Fingers crossed you'll be all right now. Thank you. 22% of you said that the limited market demand for recycled plastic was one of the biggest challenges, and 10% said policy and regulatory barriers. So interesting, great, all really good. And I think we can dig into that issue a little bit further. Is Aliu gone again?
No, I'm here now.
Ah, brilliant. Thanks, Aliu.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So look, they've heard of our audience, have heard a very short introduction from me about your work, but we'd love to hear it from you, please. Would you like to tell us about your journey building plastics recycling Gambia?
Yeah, thank you so much for stepping in for me. As you know, like you said, you know me better now, so I think you can represent me here well. So I apologize to the audience for that hiccup. Yeah, due to, as you already said, we are in and out, and the internet was very bad, disappointing. But yeah, my name is Ali Sow, and like you said, I'm doing plastic recycling. I have somebody, I was listening, following the conversation as well. And I'm also doing the same as the guys in Kenya, which is collecting plastic waste from all over the environment, hard plastic to say, HDPE, PP, and now we also collecting PET and even PVC. We just started. So yeah, the collections as everywhere in Africa, plastic is everywhere. So we don't have a central collections place, so we do go search fish, like we are fishing in the river. So we go fish the plastic in the environment everywhere, the dump site, the mangrove swamps, our homes, our backyard, in the farms, everywhere. So we deal with the community, like you said, because we believe with the community we can easily reach the plastic, and we can also help involve a lot of locals who have no basic education and are just unemployed, I can say, basically mostly farmers and scavengers. Um, People from all walks of life now are joining. So we are setting up the message. And so they are keeping the plastic for us in their homes, in their backyard, and then calling us to come and collect it. We also buying per kilo, plastic per kilo. So there is money for the community. And that's the best way. I think they've been involved when there is income or resources in it. They are all looking for, of course, how to make income, but also the educational aspect. They believe in it now, which is cleaning their environment and dangers of plastic waste. We are sending that message across. So that's what we do since 2017. We were in and outdoor, and of course, also due to COVID, there was a time that we stopped, but we still in it, and we have been to many schools now. Principals or teachers are inviting us to talk about plastic waste, and kids are also joining in, visiting our center, learning about plastic waste or plastic recycling. So that is a noble, a proud moment that we are passing the message to the schools. We always say catch them when they are young, from the nursery school to the primary school, now to the even university. I have an MOU with the University of the Gambia that teaching or showcasing the danger of plastics and the types of plastics and the ways to collect and the ways to recycle. So we are passing it on to the schools and a lot of the municipalities, like you said, with the Kanifing municipality. They are our close partners in this. If you know, Gambia, Kanifing municipality is the largest municipality in the Gambia. And most of our waste emanating, of course, from there. They have so many large markets and large city centers. So We partner with them wherever they have plastic waste. They call us, they segregate it, and we collect it. And they gave us access to their dump site to be collecting the plastic waste. As you know, in the dump site, mostly there are fires. And when you burn the tires and the plastic, of course, the smoke can go on for days. And we all know the dangers of plastic smoke and tire smoking, and schools are all over the dump site. So for that not to happen, they have called us in to collect all the plastic waste from the dump site. And now when there is fire, it's just the grass that is not is dangerous, but it's still not comparable to plastic waste or tires. So other municipalities have called us in, and we are trying to work with them on the same. And of course, when investors come or when recyclers come to the country, they go to the municipality first. So the municipality call us in for advices, and we also try to have a meeting with them. So that's what we are doing. We are just we are not manufacturing at the moment, but we are making raw materials from the plastic waste, segregating, collecting, segregating, washing, and then grinding, packaging, and then sending to the manufacturing companies here in the Gambia and Senegal, our neighboring country. So we have now enough companies that are requesting our recycled plastic already washed, clean, and segregated. So recently also we partnered with some local organizations and individuals, and we form what we call the precious plastic, where we are manufacturing chairs, benches, other school materials like rulers, key rings, from the plastic that I am collecting and grinding. So there is good to see there's products from the plastics, final products that I am involved in. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Aliu. You've covered a lot there. So brilliant. I'm so pleased that you came back and caught me up, because I was struggling with so much detail. But that's really great. So I think just to pick on a few things that Aliu touched on there. One was the relationship with the local authority, which I want to dig into a little bit more in a minute, and also to hear from Dipesh, because I know that you find that quite critical, don't you? Also great that you're so involved in engaging the local community, because well, we've got a poll question about that later, but personally I think that's absolutely critical, but I don't want to sway people's opinions in the poll question. So Aliu, thank you very much for that. That's great. I just want to hand over to Dipesh now. I want to pick up on Aliu's point about working with the municipalities. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience in Lamu in Kenya, please, Dipesh?
Kenya has a devolved governmental system now, which means that waste management was devolved and brought down to the county level. Within the counties, depending on particular counties, you will have municipalities in Kenya. So Lamu municipality constitutes a very small portion of the actual county itself, which is quite big. I think the will is there, the resources and the knowledge is not. And I don't believe that, people join these government bodies to make our lives difficult. I think we all go into something with the right intentions, and sometimes the system is just too difficult and disables us, so to speak. So it's often, I think, when you've had enough interaction, I feel you transition from the frustration to trying to see the human being and recognizing that there are so many limitations that are beyond their control. So when we first joined, so our story into actual industrial sort of waste management, so to speak, started about 4 years ago. And we were very fortunate to be one of the programs selected under the Sustainable Manufacturing and Environmental Pollution Program, which is a UK government funded program. this allowed us to try to pilot and look at what we can do and what we have to do in order to get to a stage of commercial viability. The absence of waste infrastructure in Lamu has been probably one of the toughest areas to deal with. The municipality we do engage, they do what they can. We helped and contributed to their first policy as a municipality. The county itself does not have a policy document. But the realities of the ground is that, you know, when the tractor doesn't have petrol to fill it, or when there's a puncture in the county municipality tractor and it can't move, you're sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place. So I think suffice to say, by and large, there is goodwill, but there just isn't resource.
Great, thanks Dipesh. And what's the Flipflopi project been doing to work with the municipality and with the at national level and even regional level? Because you've been doing some really impressive work there.
Yeah. So one of our core pillars as Flipflopi is to try to work on towards policy development and regulatory development, both at the local level and at the regional level. At the regional level, we've been pushing, thanks to having also pro bono partners in the legislative space, trying to push for a legislation to ban unnecessary single-use plastics, a specific set of unnecessary single-use plastics, looking at models like around like the EU as an example, and how they're phasing out what one could say potentially as the low-hanging fruit. But I think its strength may come in its simplicity. We see what's happened to the attempted global binding treaty on plastics. It's not going anywhere. And really staying sort of focused to look at, well, number one, understanding that plastics is not something that we can tackle at a national level. If we're going to look at policy, it's going to have to be regional. We have the advantage in East Africa of having a legislative assembly that covers a community that covers all 8 countries. So we proposed a draft bill which has been approved for tabling. It's a long haul, but we're getting there. At the local level in the county, when we went through the devolution transition in Kenya, in 22, we passed a National Sustainable Waste Management Act, which on paper is an incredible document. I think Kenya has been really exceptional and ahead of everybody else when it comes to writing policy. I don't think we're even scratching the surface of enforcement yet. And then that mandated counties to also come up with their own policy document. So, and it hasn't happened yet in Lamu's case. It also said basically that the counties have to be responsible for financing it themselves. And I think there lies the problem with it all. And I'm sure it's the same in Gambia. The idea of financing at a county level with very little income coming in, so to speak, because essentially you're dealing with a lower income community by and large. There's very, very little by way of sort of taxpayers and local income generated. So where do you begin when you might have people who have jobs in an office and they may or may not get their salaries, let alone have the budget or to put in the necessary infrastructure. One of the ways we're trying to address this, we're just in the plastic space, and we're just right now in the recyclable plastic space, and we're very well aware of that, and we know we've got a lot more to tackle, but we still have to think about the whole solid waste management aspect of it. But our learnings, I think, can certainly inform the wider space. So one of the things we've done to ensure that we have a continuous dialogue with the county and the municipality is to propose a consortium which is neutral, and that would represent the various community groups and all of those across the waste management, so that we hopefully can have a platform and a unified voice to contribute to the day-to-day decision making at the local level, as well as towards a practical, sensible policy document that can work for Lamu County. So I definitely think, again, just to reinforce, there has been a lot of goodwill. I just think it's hard to know where to start when you haven't done it before.
Yeah. Thanks, Dipesh. And I think that's a really, really important point, actually. I think that, you know, because plastic recycling and, to be honest, most waste management initiatives in general across the global south, because they're still quite early stage, there aren't many people or organizations with a wealth of experience to share. Yeah, because, you know, it's such a different context to in the UK or Europe, for example. There's many more challenges, and so it's down to people like yourselves, like Dipesh here and Aliul also on the call, to share their experiences and for us all to help each other, because we're all kind of feeling our way through this, trying to come up with solutions. It's a lot of effort, usually from very passionate people, but passion alone isn't sustainable, right? Everyone's got to sleep, they've got to eat, they've got to pay the bills, and we shouldn't be, you know, we can't be relying on people just doing this from their own goodwill. It needs to be a systemic solution, and that involves local government, it involves national government, it involves the private sector and the donor organizations as well. So one thing on that note about knowledge sharing that I'm very excited to mention right now is a small project that I've been working on with the Flipflopi project, which is a toolkit where they are in fact sharing all of the knowledge and lessons learned that they have accumulated over the last 5 years or so. So it's not live yet, it's going live in about 1 week from now, so please do stay tuned. If you don't already follow the Flipflopi project on social media, please do. Website is Flipflopi, it's theflipflopi.com. And I'm just going to share my screen and give you a sneak preview for the 103 of you who are here live, you luckies. I just tuck the Q&A away. Here we go. So the Flipflopi Toolkit, recycling solutions for remote communities. So this is the original Flipflopi boat here. It's funded by SMEP, the Sustainable Manufacturing and Environmental Pollution Programme. Okay, so what's in the toolkit? We've got these two sections: plastic recycling essentials and scaling your impact. Okay, the plastic recycling essentials is everything you need to know in terms of engaging with your community, getting those plastics collected, how you deal with the feedstock. You need to clean it, you know, you need to overcome certain problems with contamination. How do the Flipflopi project do their recycling processes? And then moving on to the enterprise side, so actually selling your products, finding the market, understanding, you know, what the different prices are, and factoring in your operational costs as well as your capital costs, and then finally tracking impact. So if you are going for funding, for example, from a donor organization, one of these big international institutions, they will want you to be doing good monitoring and evaluation, right? And this is something, to be fair, that the Flipflopi project are superb at. I'm always saying to anyone in the waste management sector, you know, collect data, record everything, and they say, yes, Zoe, yes, Zoe, and I come back 6 months later, there's nothing. Well, let me tell you, these guys are incredible with their data collection and the amount that they are able to learn from it, and also then to share that knowledge with other people trying to do plastic recycling or with donors. Really important, you know, so that we're all on the same page and we're all understanding what these challenges are together, so that we can work together, help each other to overcome these challenges. Okay, now the second part of the toolkit is scaling your impact. In here, there's some really great information, again, from the Flipflopi experience on research and development, training, and in the training there's like slides that you can use. You can just, you know, use them directly for running your own classes. how to work with governments and municipalities to improve waste systems, how to, and then for governments and municipalities, there's a policy making toolkit, including a draft policy brief. And then finally campaigning. So if we're not in government, how do we campaign to get those policies changed so that it can support this kind of activity? So just to show you how this works, we've got plastic recycling essentials, so local outreach, feedstock recycling, enterprise, and tracking your impact. And each section is down here. And then in scaling your impact, we have the R&D, the training, and so on. So for example, I'll show you the research and development, and we'll take a look at perhaps what you need. Okay, so I'll just spend 1 minute showing you through this. So what you need, so we did some research beforehand with target audience, and they said, look, we don't want it to look like one long report. There's enough long reports online for everyone forever, right? So what they wanted was to be able to have this information in bite-sized chunks, so they can dip in and find the information when they need it. So for example, how do we prepare? Some great advice from the Flipflopi, from the actual experience. What are the starting points? Start small, don't overinvest before you've learnt your lessons. Prioritizing safety. These are all really, really useful tips that they are sharing. Then what equipment you would need to actually get started. And then we've always got the blue sections, how the Flipflopi did it, so that you can really see inside their organization and how they're working. And then there's loads of great freebies, like this standard operating procedure for testing your plastics, so you can find out for sure what you've got. Also the material research and analysis worksheets. So there's lots and lots and lots of resources here. This is inside their workshop there. Yeah, loads of resources. So I do encourage you, when we put this live, probably 1st of May. So please do follow on the socials, and we'll make sure that you are the first to know. So on that, I wonder if Sweater, could we please have the second poll question, where I'd like to ask, just get some feedback, because we do have a week of final tweaks to make on the toolkit. So you've had a very quick rundown there. I'm just really keen to understand, which aspect of the Flipflopi Toolkit are you most interested in exploring further? Is it practical tools for plastic recovery? How do you actually do it? What are the processes that you need to undertake to do this efficiently, to engage with the community, get stuff moved to your centre? Is it financial strategies for sustainability? So the Flipflopi have offered advice and their experience on plastic credits, on grants, on partnerships. They've got their training centre. Do you think that the advice on policy frameworks and advocacy would be most helpful? Considering that plastic recycling cannot happen in isolation, it needs to be part of this broader ecosystem. So how do we get the policy frameworks and advocacy working, so that everything's aligned? And finally, are you most looking forward to reading their case studies and success stories? Because, there's nothing like real lived experience to help other people. So, all right, so got some nice comments in the webinar chat then. And I'll just give you another few seconds to finish answering the poll. And I think the results are ready. Ta-da! Here we go. All right, so the financial strategies is really popular, and the case studies and the success stories, that's what I thought might be the case, actually. These are the challenges that people have, and the Flipflopi project is a great organization to learn from. So look, we are very excited to be putting this live next week. And thanks to Depeche for inviting me to be a part of that. So yeah, I'm just really hopeful that this is going to be helpful for people kind of so Aliu is working you know, very independently and very brilliantly in the Gambia, but doesn't have all of this wider support that the Flipflopi project has been able to attract so far. And I think, you know, the vast majority of you who are doing plastics recycling are probably more in Aliu's shoes right now than in those of the Flipflopi. So Aliu, I'd like to pass back to you, please. You know, what are the key challenges that you have experienced? And, you know, if you could have, if someone could have, you know, mentored you at the beginning, who's got all this experience and could have given you some advice, what's that key advice that you would like to share with other people who are here today?
Well, thank you. I think you have mentioned that in your presentation, kind of, which is starting small. When we started, before we get the machine, we were just buying all type of plastic, collecting and buying all type of plastics, and it took us a year before we could get the machines. So we rented a place too early, immediately, and then it took us a whole year buying and taking to that place. So we were paying rent, we were taking all type of plastic, like I said, tons of plastics. Some of them we end up not needing because we cannot recycle, but we already buy it. So that's starting small and getting the machine first, or or even waiting until you get the machine to make it resourceful, because we didn't have cash flow for over a year. So we spent all our money on renting and buying, and then we end up not recycling. So that is number one. We started a lot. So number two, like you said, keeping records is always a problem here, and we don't have that data base so that we can come back to it and calculate. So that was also a big issue. When we look back, we could have done it better on that data. So most of it, and also the collection, the way we were doing the collection before. Now we are more experienced. We set up collection centers. We engaging the communities. We don't need to burn fuel to go and collect 500 kg from 10 kilometers far. So we could have just leave it there until we have 5 tons to 10 tons. Then we could collect it with a big truck at once. So, and we don't need to ourselves going into communities and sitting there for days and collecting. So we involving of the communities is something that we didn't start off before, that we are doing now better. So all in all is the financial disciplines of investing on the things that we don't need at that moment. So we took all that risk. So it's just a learning point at that moment. But if we have to restart again now, we could done such in a better form. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are some of the challenges we learned the hard way. And so right now is also the good location for especially electricity supply. As you know, here is a big problem. Not everywhere have a good electricity. So where we were, there was a lot of electricity cut off. And sometimes we wait for a whole day without getting electricity there. And we don't have a standby generator. And when you have a standby generator, fuel is very expensive. So that was a big challenge. We rented a place that doesn't have a good electricity supply, and sometimes when we even have electricity, we go on a low supply, low voltage. So the machine couldn't turn off. We need to wait or call the electricity company to come and help us adjust it, and all those challenges that we could have put in place before we could have factor and put in place before we could even start proper. So yeah, so when we started, those are the main challenges. We lost a lot of kilograms of plastics back to the dump site because we didn't need them. We collected a lot of plastic that we didn't need. So like some are PET, some are mixed. Some are somewhere PVC, somewhere with ions. So we cannot remove the iron, and we have to send them all back to the dump site because we only need the PP and the HDPE to make money and to reinvest or to pay our rent and our staffs. So yeah, those were the bigger challenges. Access to water as well was always there because we were washing the plastic. We have over 50 to 60 ladies coming to wash for us. And apart from electricity, to have access to water to the yard was a big problem. So we need to go somewhere, fetch water, bring in trucks to bring in water. Sometimes there's water, sometimes there is not. So all that were a big challenge. And of course, as you know, renting is also a big challenge here.
So
You
many big challenges. I honestly don't know how you deal with them all at once. We've got one question that's come in the Q&A, Aliu, specifically for you. So somebody's asking, it's Michelle. He is asking, where did you get the money to start buying the plastic and paying rent from the very first day of operation? Right. So this is people that they want to start, but they don't know, like, how do you actually take that first step?
Yeah, thank you. That's an important question. And of course, you cannot start without that small money. There was a saving for me, of course. I was working 7 years, 6 to 7 years in Dubai with hotel industries. So there was a little bit saving for me to come home. But also I got some Dutch friends who were very generous to help me teach me about all this recycling aspect. I was in the Netherlands in 2016, and when I went back there in 2017, it's just specifically to learn about recycling. That's where I learned everything on the machineries, on the types of plastic, and also the market, because they know Africa very well. So they connect me to some markets in Senegal, because that time, 2017, 2018, Gambia, I think there was only one company that was doing plastic manufacturing. And they need very low scale, like 10 tons in a month, which was not enough for us. So they connect us to Senegal, Dakar, where I was taking the plastic. So coming back 2017, they helped me to get a little funding from PUM, which is a Dutch organization, their foreign secretary organization, which are looking into Africa on experts in Africa. They are sending experts to Africa in all walks of life or all fields. So an expert on plastic recycling in the Netherlands helped me to get that small funding to start. So that was the money with my saving that I come home with, and with renting, and also buying the machine for the first grinder we have from that money, and as well as buying the plastic and setting up and registering the company and setting up the staff. So that's where I started. But after 1 year, it was all have to do with us, that we have to sustain ourselves.
Yeah. No, you've done such a great job, and I think that's quite telling, actually, that this was the Gambia's only plastic recycling industry was built on someone's own personal savings and some foreign friends, giving a bit of help. And we've only got 7 minutes left, and I have to let Dipesh leave for his aeroplane on time, because I absolutely promised. So Dipesh, can I just go to you now? So we've seen thanks, Aliu. We've seen the Flipflopi Toolkit. There's some great comments in the chat there. Just from your perspective, thinking of the audience that we have here with us today, and you've seen the questions coming up in the Q&A and the comments there. What are the, I don't know, the best golden nuggets of advice that you could share with people who are, either wanting to take that first step, or they've got something small running, but they want to make it bigger and more successful? Can you share something from your experience that might help them, please?
Yeah, that's a good question. Tough question. Aliu, I just want to say, we have all the same problems, and irrespective of being so privileged and so fortunate to have, good core funding to get us going and give us the time to grow the model, we still have the same challenges constantly. I'm not too sure, Zoe. there are so many nuggets, and there are so many dilemmas. And it really depends on what angle you're going at this for. Are you going in it to make money, or are you going in it to hopefully sustain and reduce the amount of plastic pollution that's getting out of the environment? Do we see ourselves, getting rich off this? Certainly not. That's not the objective over here.
Wrong industry.
And I think that's probably the most important thing. If you're going into this thinking you're gonna get wealthy, it's not gonna happen. But it also shouldn't really happen in our part of the world. We're built on the wrong foundation. The environmentalists in our part of the world are people that are doing it out of desperation, and going to dump sites and everything else that is wrong about it. The reality of it is people will be willing to sell plastics for pittance. And if you're gonna go for it, I think you recognize, certainly in our part of the world, it's less about the polymer and it's more about where the polymer is located. And you have to be ready to just to have the ability to sort of be able to address all these other critical issues, because they're really at the heart of what the problem is. We're talking about money, and we're talking about problems of it not being cost effective, and yet we're not talking about the elephant in the room. What's the one product that gets to every crack on the planet? It's Coca-Cola, and it's a plastic bottle. And how do we get that plastic bottle out of there? There's no money, ironically. So, and people are learning from their logistics, and people are now trying to hold the profit, the ones that are making the profit, a little bit more accountable. I think it's a lot of passion. It can be colorful, it can be despairing, and yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not being specific. I can talk about HDPE problems and PP additives and all of the rest of the problems that we've seen, etc. But yeah, I just think you have to be just really open-minded and ready for the long haul.
Yeah, no, absolutely brilliant insights there, Dipesh. Thank you. And there are, like Dipesh was touching on there are so many different aspects to this. There's your operational challenges, which we've discussed quite a bit here, but it's also, if you don't have that local enabling environment, how do you get, if there's no waste collection in your area, how do, it falls upon the plastic recyclers to actually introduce the first collection system that people may have ever come across. So we've got one more poll question. Sweta, have we got time to squeeze that in? Super, thank you, because that ties it in with this one. So local community involvement. How important do you think local community involvement is in successful plastic recycling initiatives? Is it essential? Absolutely crucial? Is it moderately important, so it can help, but it's not always needed? Or is it not very important because you believe that top-down approaches can be just as effective? Or are you not sure? Maybe it just depends on the context. So I know, we've heard from Dipesh and Aliul, they're both investing a lot of time and energy when they could be recycling plastics into actually going out and engaging with the community. Yeah, working with the schools, working with the universities. I've seen quite a few of the Flipflopi's academic partners in the chat here today. Building those networks is really, really valuable. And these are all bits of advice that are included in the Flipflopi Toolkit. I've seen quite a few questions come up in the chat and in the Q&A, and I'm thinking, I know the answers are in the toolkit. So I'm very happy that we've definitely produced a product that's going to be useful. And here are the answers. Wow. Absolutely essential, I think is the overarching feeling. So yeah, we've got to get that local buy-in. Where does that start? Whose responsibility is that? Is it the responsibility of the people who are actually doing the plastic recycling? Or is it more the local authority? Or is it government? Or, lots of open questions. You know, our stories will all continue, and I do hope that everybody who's joined us in the chat has, you know, gained some really valuable insights today. I know I have. Thanks for all the Q&As as well, the Qs, and some of the A's that other people have submitted there. Sorry we didn't get a chance to reach all of you, but thank you very much once again for joining us. Huge thanks to Dipesh and Aliu for coming and sharing your advice and experience, because I know how very busy you both are. So
Thanks for having us, Swetha and Zoe.
pleasure. Thank you. Thanks a lot. So I'm going to hand back to Swetha, and thank you everybody for joining us. It's been brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe. Thank you, Dipesh. Thank you, Aliu. And I'm really glad, Aliu, you managed to connect using your phone because the audio was so clear.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot to all of you. And thanks a lot to the audience as well. I've dropped in how you can get in touch with the speakers. Some of it is an email. Some of it is a LinkedIn profile. Please go ahead. They're very responsive at that particular link. The webinar will go up on our website in a couple of weeks. Sign up to our newsletter. You will have an update. We have another webinar very shortly this month scheduled. So please go to our website and sign up for that too. Bye, everyone. Thanks a lot to the speakers.
Santisana.
Thanks, Aliu.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Swetha. Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much for coming
Yeah.
along. It's the audience
Yeah,
that makes
thank
it
you.
happen. So you've been brilliant. Thanks a lot. And
Thanks,
safe
Anna.
travels to Pesh.
Ante.
Hope your journey goes well. Thanks, Aliu. Thanks so much.